Publication IFERP in association with United Innovators. To say a few words about this webinar, each year hundreds of technical innovations generated by space programs make their way into our earthly technology, such as better home appliances, advancements in farming equipment, faster communications, more precise maritime and aerospace technologies, safely through dangerous weather warnings, improved medical instruments, and other innovations in everyday life. Next, I would like to talk about our organizer, IFERP. The Institute for Engineering Research and Publications is a non-profitable professional association meant for research and development in the field of science, engineering, and technology. IFERP connects engineers to exchange global innovation and acts as a bridge between researchers and academicians by organizing international conferences, international workshops, guest lectures, short-term training programs, membership, and establishing chapters. The publications have shown a marked growth in terms of global outreach, impact factors, downloads, citations, and quick decision rates by the peer reviewers, the number of submissions, and stringent acceptance rates as well. IFERP is a leading publisher of scientific articles in Scopus, SCI, ESCI, and Web of Science journals. To say a few words about United Innovators, the other organizer, United Innovators is a research and development service provider, providing all the end-to-end services such as PhD assistance, patent filing, UG, PG, and PhD thesis writing, research and review article writing, Scopus, SCI, Web of Science, UGC journal standards, and publications. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our speaker of the day, Dr. Murthy Remila, to take the spotlight. Before he takes the spotlight, I'd like to give you a small biography about him. Dr. Murthy Remila is the head of project management in the Human Spaceflight Group, GAGAN program of India at the ISRO Indian Space Research Organization. He was the head of supply chain management in the ISRO Satellite Center. He has more than 25 years plus of experience covering the technical, business, and managerial domains. A seasoned professional with experience in the areas of program and project management, business analysis, and leadership role in international marketing of high-tech products and services with exposure to HR, finance, and administration. Under his service, he overtook and successfully completed many paramount important projects of ISRO that includes ISAC, XP, OSAC, NDEM, NRSC, and many more. Dr. Remila, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to have you with us, and I welcome you to deliver the keynote address for this session. Doctor, the session is over to you. You're on mute, Doctor.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Ms. Fatima, for the nice introduction. Yeah, I would like to just know the profile of the participants so that I can fine-tune my presentation to the level. Very briefly, can you tell me? I am seeing the only one video of a child, okay?
Sir, so the participants are a mixed group of audience actually. So they are from the backgrounds of engineering and technology as well. So they are a mixed group of people. We have both professionals and students as well in the mix.
Okay. Anyway, I will assume everybody needs a good program or a micro details, and I will go ahead. Because if they are all engineering students or professors above means that is one type. And if there are kids, I have to go to a next level. Okay. Let me see what best I can do. Yeah, can you see this slide in full slide mode?
Yes, sir. We can look at the slides.
Yeah. Once again, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this session. Basically, the space systems in our daily life, as Madam has told, every day so many technology developments are happening in space as well as electronics, information technology, and everywhere, and how they are affecting our daily life. Except Google Maps and one or two things we may not be knowing, but the space is playing a role in many other aspects and fields. And along with that, I will cover the journey of ISRO also. Is my audio clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay, Pranav. So basically, when we see the space services, the global trends are four types. One is the satellites and launch vehicles, which most of you may be aware. That is, a satellite is the passenger and the launch vehicle is the carrier, taking the satellite to the intended orbit, whether it is 600 to 800 kilometers or 36,000 kilometers or 22,000 kilometers. The other one is technologies in the sensors, platforms, and spacecraft, which is not visible to the people. Is when we say the sensors, what are the cameras inside the satellite? What are the platform? That is the base on which the satellite is built. And what are the developments in the spacecraft? That is inside the spacecraft, whether it is a power system, control system, or a digital system, or a communication system, etc. So all the technology developments in these fields also contribute to the trends in the space technology development. The other one is once you have a satellite, you have a launch vehicle, you have launched it, and it has all the systems. So the next one is a ground station. So ground station is the one which receives the data from the satellite and disseminates to the people, whoever wants it. And then it disseminates the information to the concerned departments or ministries like cyclone and other weather prediction, or remote sensing information means to the customers, or communication means to all of us like the TV viewers. So once this ground station receives this, what products it produces and what are the prices, because the weather prediction and other things are not priced. We don't buy that, it comes free. But definitely the ministry of particular department is either paying or contributing or requesting those products. But if it is a remote sensing image over Bangalore or Hyderabad, let us say, a latest image, then the customer will be paying the price for it. And so what is the supply chain, how they will receive, how they will supply to the end customer, and what are all the number of countries it is serving, what are the companies. This is the third dimension. Finally, last but not the least is the applications, processing, and algorithms. So what are the applications? Let us say you have an image over a Hyderabad. So what do you do with that? You can do multiple things with that. So a roads and development building or roads and developments department can use it to see where are all the roads, where they want to make the new roads, where they can make it, where they cannot make it. A Ministry of Forestry can see where is all the greenery, where it is reducing, where it is increasing, etc. Or another water development ministry or a water resources ministry can see what are all the reservoirs, lakes, and water bodies available. So how to distribute that water to the public. So these are all, only more details will come later. So these are all the details of the applications. Then once you receive the data, how you are processing, how quickly you can process, and how effectively and beautifully you can deliver the product to the customer. And behind all these things, another invisible thing is algorithm. What are all the softwares, algorithms behind these processing procedures and techniques, and how best you will give the product, end product, to the customers. So what happens is the public, common public in general, will see only the satellites and launch vehicles. Not even the satellite. Okay, today one PSLV is launched or one GSLV is launched, etc. Anyway, at this time, I will announce that tomorrow is 22, 22, 22. What is the 22, 22, 22? We are launching a GSAT 22 satellite tomorrow, 22nd June 2022. Tomorrow early morning 3:40 or so. is the launch from Kourou. And most probably this will be the last launch from a foreign satellite. Okay, so having said that, these are all the 4 dimensions where the trends are happening, and everybody is trying to develop in each of these things, because not just launching our satellites, but how best you utilize the satellites, etc., makes sense for the investment going into the satellite, because the communication and earth observation satellite business is mostly owned and operated by private industries in many countries. In India, it is mostly by the government of India, that is ISRO. But now, as you may be aware, since the last 6 or 7 months, there is a new guidelines and new policies welcoming more private players to play a role, bigger role. They are playing a role now also in ISRO, but to play a bigger role in the satellite making and the launch vehicle making. But what happens is, what is the credibility of the launch vehicle? Whether it is a Soyuz, Proton, Atlas, PSLV, GSLV, etc. What is the reliability? How best we can rely on that satellite? Because you are putting a 300 or 400 crore satellite into the launch vehicle. If it doesn't perform well, it is not the loss of a launch vehicle, but it is loss of a satellite which is built over a 3 to 4 years period. So the reliability of the launch vehicle also matters a lot. Finally, what is happening is the development of technology in these areas, and they are over supplying the data sometimes. But then it is like a dil mange more. The more the technology, the more the products, and the more the precision of the products, the more the customers are demanding. This is like our mobile phone. Earlier, we used to have some 1 Mbps or some data connectivity, or even less than that, and some small resolution camera. So size was big. So over a period, the size has become less, the quality and the internal capabilities have increased, data speed has increased, camera has become up to 20 megapixels or 30 megapixels, but still we are asking 50 megapixels. But by the time 50 megapixels comes, we will be demanding 70 megapixels. So they will be working. So this is a continuous loop, and both the sides, demand side and the supply side, both are pushing each other. Is this okay? This is speed and content.
Sir, your slides are not moving on the screen.
Yeah, right now I am in space services. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yours.
Space services, global trends.
No, ma'am. No, sir. The screen is not moving.
No, space services, global trends. I am in that.
No, sir. The
Yes,
slide
sir.
did not move on the screen. So
Yes,
now,
sir, now.
Now you are able to see?
yes, sir. Now we are able to
1
see.
minute. I'll close and restart. I will restart the screen share. Okay. Is that good now?
It is yet to come up, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We can see the screen.
Yeah. So next one is, you are seeing this global map?
Yes, we are.
Map? Yeah. So these are the number of the countries or space countries earlier, long back, up to 2010. You can see the orange colored countries are the countries having the space activities. That means having the space, sorry, in 1966, it is having the space activities in terms of having a launch vehicle or having a satellite or using a satellite from somebody else and using the data for their own applications, etc. So anyway, it is all only handful of the countries. But now today, if you see, not even today the map may be more in orange color. Today in 2016, if you see, very few countries in Africa and one or two other places are left without a orange color. That means what? These are all the countries, either they have the capabilities to build their satellites or launch vehicles, or at least getting the data from the space companies and using that for their application. That is how the data is increasing. So what are driving these technology trends? So what is the thing? One is on the space segment. In the satellite, what are all the developments happening, and what are all the developments happening in the ground segment? In the space segment, as we know, in the case of the mobile phones, same thing applies here, miniaturization of electronics. So same capacity and capability is coming in a smaller size and a lesser weight and a lesser cost. And high performance onboard computing is available. So some of the data is processed on the satellite itself before it is shared to the ground segment. And we have got large but lightweight structures. In the space business, what happens is you need a very robust and strong material with the lightest weight and with the cheapest cost. These are all the requirements in a space segment. So what happens? With the availability of large and lightweight structures, we are able to build bigger satellites, more capacity, more capability, and put them into orbit. The increased power and active sensing, that means what? With the same size of the batteries or even less than the size of the batteries of earlier period, we are able to get more power. We are able to store more power. We are able to store more period. So that is how it is increasing. And active sensing is, passive sensing means if the sunlight is falling on all the objects and the satellite is capturing that image. But active sensing means the satellite itself, like a microwave radar, the satellite itself sends a signal and the reflections from that object are sensed back as the signatures of that object, and that is captured. That is what is called as an active sensing. Otherwise, third development is compact optics. The cameras, the sensors, and the lenses all used in the remote sensing satellites are becoming compact, more reliable, more rugged, and more light in weight. And the frequency flexibility also. That is, earlier one satellite used to be operating only in one particular frequency, and you used to have different satellites for different frequencies. But today the flexibility is more. You can have one satellite operating in multiple bands and multiple frequencies, so that it is becoming a multiple satellites into one satellite. In the ground segment, what is happening? There is no use if you give a higher data and a better data to the customers unless the improvement is there on the ground. That is the data usage in combination with GIS, GPS, and mobile platforms. Today, all of us are aware that we are using the Google Maps for our location. That what are all the things involved in that? The satellite data is used as a base reference. After that, the geographic information system, GIS, which tells about where is the police station, where is the post office, where is the railway station, what are the hotels, all that is captured in GIS layers. Then the global positioning system and the mobile platform. Global positioning system, GPS, most of you may be aware, is what it is telling you the time and reference and the distance when you are traveling from one point to another point. So, and the beautiful thing is all of these things which used to be earlier in supercomputers, later computers and laptops, now they came to mobile platforms, and mobile phones are becoming a computers almost are beating the computers also. Another thing is the web applications. Instead of connecting to a particular network and getting that in a closed user group, now these services are available in web platform. That is like our Google Maps or any other ISRO's maps in Bhuvan. They are all available on the web. So multiple users from multiple places can access the data simultaneously. And another development in the ground segment is the seamless data and data fusion. That is, you don't know which satellite. Suppose you want an image of the whole Bombay. So you may have multiple data of satellites from different, data from multiple satellites, like some IRS Cartosat may be there, or some patch which is not covered by that. You may have another satellite data, and you may have the next strip from another satellite, and everything is fusioned well, so that you will give a total Bombay image in a best possible presentable manner. That is how the ground segment is increasing. So the space segment and ground segment, again, as I said, in the example of the mobile phones, they are catching up or chasing each other. More and more demands on the ground, more and more technologies on the ground, and more developments in the space. So overall, what is happening? We are seeing decreasing size and mass and increasing the capabilities. Here on the left side, you can see the foreign satellites from US, Iconos, QuickBird 1, GeoEye 1, WorldView 1, 2, 3, etc. And on the right side, you are seeing the IRS mission series, where that is a Cartosat, and then SCATSat, and then ResourceSat 2A, Carto 3, Carto 3A, RISat, that is a radar imaging satellite, etc. So the different varieties of applications are being met by different satellites. Now let us see how this journey has started. This is the Vikram Sarabhai, father of Indian space program, and which was started in the late 60s, and around 70 it was formed. And he has started this program when all the world countries were laughing at us that, okay, why such a poor country like India without proper infrastructure, roads and food, why do you want to get into space affairs and spend so much of time and effort, and which is a technology oriented. But then he has convinced the government at the time and said that we need an independence, because if you are using the foreign satellites for a GPS or any other data, as long as your customers and everything is smooth, it may be fine. But in case of any war or any other critical situation, if the satellite operator switches off or he doesn't give the downlink to India, then we are out. Immediately it will be like a power off condition. So he convinced the government and started this Indian space program, where we have got the IRS series of satellites, communication satellites, GSAT, INSAT, etc. And we have got the launcher, that is the rocket which I told. And then not only just a rocket and a satellite, but all the infrastructure, that is end-to-end capability. Though we are buying all the micro components and ICs and chips today, but we are in-house developing the PCBs and laying them, and then developing the subsystems, systems, integrating, testing and launching. So these are all the things. And at the same time, we are trying to see that we are catching up with the state-of-the-art technology, so that we are not lagging behind the technology, and we get upgraded from time to time. So for doing all these things, we need the human resources, and that expertise should be built. We are having more than 16,000 people today in ISRO, and we also need an international cooperation, because we need some technologies from some countries, some cooperation or some advancements from some countries, some components from some countries, because everything is not business. When it comes to another country becoming a space power or a space leader, the countries will play the politics. So definitely it is not just business, but we need some international cooperation and help from the international agencies and countries, so that we get the components on a commercial basis. Then finally, the space assets, that is the remote sensing satellites, telecommunication satellites, and the navigation satellites. All these things have to be managed, maintained, and health to be monitored on a 24/7 basis. So finally, put together all these things, what happens? No wonder socio-economic concerns from the nucleus of the Indian space endeavor meets all the segments, because today we have got satellites meeting different applications, which I will cover in the next slides. So it is initiated in 1960s and initially formed as a INCOSPAR in 62. 69 was the birth of ISRO, and 72 is the Space Commission and Department of Space. That is how the journey of ISRO has started. And this is the spread of the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, and DOS centers across India. You can see everywhere it is there. And the structure on the left side is how the organizational structure is there. We as a Department of Space are directly under the Prime Minister, and below that is the ISRO and below the Department of Space only are the other independent and autonomous organizations and Antrix Corporation or today NCL, etc. Under the ISRO is what actually the different centers at the time of the launch. That is VSSC, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in Trivandrum, LPSC in the Mahendragiri, Shar, Sriharikota, that is famous to all of you. ISAC is the ISRO Satellite Center where I am working currently. SAC SAC is the Space Application Center in Trivandrum. And NRSC Hyderabad, which has got 5 regional service centers, that is North, East, West, South and Central, 5 regions. So that is how this ISRO is structured under the Prime Minister. Next, we will see the satellite launch vehicles. These numbers may not be up to date because they keep increasing, but overall we started our journey with an SLV, that is a satellite launch vehicle. Afterwards, we went into the augmented satellite launch vehicle, ASLV, which had more failures. And with all the failures also, we have started parallelly the work on the PSLV. We didn't go in a sequential mode. And the PSLV is the most successful rocket, and it is a horse engine for the ISRO and launching all the satellites, and which has got more than 60 launches by now. And GSLV has got 10 launches so far, or 12 I think now. And with that, we can launch up to 2000 or 2200 kilograms. And this capability is increasing to 3 tons. And ultimately our target is 6 tons with the next version of the rocket, that is GSLV Mark III. So the capacity is increasing, the size is coming down, or the weight is coming down. So as the weight of the satellite rocket comes down, you can carry more higher passenger, that is the higher payload, or that is the higher satellite. So your purpose is not just carrying the rocket, purpose is to carry the satellite. So to take a bigger satellite, we need a lighter and more efficient rockets so that bigger satellites can go and more power can come from that. So we have got several satellites. Don't get into the numbers, they may vary. So we have got different, more than a dozen operational satellites in the communication area. And in the remote sensing, there are 7 to 8 satellites, and there are 12 satellites in the sun synchronous orbit. And in the navigation system, most of you might have heard recently, we have initiated the NAVIC program, that is the navigation system for India, by India, for Indians. So that is having the GPS capabilities, because as I said in the beginning, if the foreign satellite data or foreign GPS data is dependent, or we are dependent on that data, then we are susceptible for any dangerous position of the foreign data, satellite operator switching off that data. So today we are independent to get the navigation information through our satellites. And also we are working, this is the famous for the children and other countrywide people in the space science, that is the our Mars mission, Astrosat, Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan 2, and next year also Chandrayaan 3 will be launched. Sorry. So what are the bus systems I told? This is for the engineering students. We call the I1K bus. That means it is around 1000 to 1200 or 1300 kilos of satellite will be built on this bus. What you can say, bus is something like a foundation for a building. So based on the foundation, your building can be size and number of floors can vary. Like that, I1K is the capacity to indicate around 1000 to 1200, 1300 or 1500 kgs. Then I2K is a 2000 kg class. I3K is a 3000 kg class. And I6K, which is in the developmental stage, is 6000 kg or a 6-ton satellite. So the bus. So based on these buses or the platforms, these satellites are built. Like our Maruti cars or any other cars, if you take also, there is an 800,000 or a Alto or a bigger version, or finally a lorry or another bus. Like that, these are all the different platforms on which the satellites are built so that they carry higher power. Now, let us come to the real topic of the thing, that is host of the space applications. You can get, as you most of us are aware, the images from the satellite, that is what you are seeing in the first image around Karnataka and Goa. Then we can see the different seasonal changes or the change detection over a particular area. What is greenery in January, March, June, September, and December. Like that we can see. Or what is the crop at the time of the seeding time, what is the pattern. Then in the middle of the crop development, what is the pattern. Then towards the crop harvesting, what is the pattern, how healthy is that, we can see that. Then the third one, India map with the red dots, is the forest fire zones. Can you imagine, so many dots are there. These are all the naturally happening and self-acquired forest fires in the Karnataka and the central India region. And the next one is the fisheries image. That is where actually using OceanSat and other satellite data, measuring the sea surface temperature, the technology can predict the availability of higher number of fishes. So the fishermen, when they go into the sea, they need not go on a trial and error basis. They get this information, they go to the areas where higher number of fishes are there and where they can get more yield. Of course, the negative side of that is some of the environmental people are telling that your satellite data is killing more number of fishes because fishermen are able to catch. So that is, of course, that is the other side of the other edge of the knife. Then we have got a telemedicine concept where the telemedicine can be provided for patients in remote areas and rural areas or hilly regions, including Jammu Kashmir, Kargil, Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep, and Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So the doctor can be at place A, patient can be at place B, and they can consult each other. And next one is a tele-education, which is providing similar to telemedicine, but providing an education through satellite for a distant or remote and rural villages. The India map in the orange color is the telemedicine network where so many nodes are connected and so many telemedicine centers are working. So today we can see the technology is available to the common man, and it is not strange that everybody is having almost a mobile phone, one or two phones, and people not having mobile phone are specialists today. And the last row, what we are seeing is the global temperature changes and climatic conditions, where the higher temperature is indicated in red, medium temperature, and low temperature, etc. So what are all the weather conditions across the globe? Because whatever UAV or a higher camera or a helicopter, that cannot capture the global data. So the satellites can capture the global data and they can provide that information. And then we also have this cyclone and other weather related dangers or disasters being warned, and we are all familiar with the images coming in the TV news that this cyclone is there in the Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea, etc. And what are all the affected areas. So these are all the different host of applications which we are seeing. In detail, if we want to see communication satellites, we know they are for communicating. So they can be for broadcast like television. Today we are having a DTH without depending on a cable operator. We can have a small antenna and then receive whatever choice of signals. Then for other communication is speech circuits, that is for connecting, and the VSATs, that is a very small aperture terminals, and all India radio stations are radio stations. Then meteorology and other, that is weather forecasting, disaster management, etc., which we have seen. So all these put together will bring the real applications for the people from morning to night in the day without our knowledge. We may be seeing more only the Google Maps or the internet, but behind the internet or behind the Google Maps or behind the WhatsApp and Facebook and other websites which we are seeing on the mobile, these are all the fields which are working. Anyway, this I'm not getting into micro detail. These are all the navigation satellites which are used by the aviation sector, railways, roadways, maritime, and for our navigation by individuals like us, and for survey of the lands and land record management by the governments. Then finally, next one is What is this one? This is a GAGAN, that is a GPS aided geo augmented navigation, which is useful for the safe landing and takeoff of the aircrafts, so that even in a misty condition or even in a fog condition, they can have a precise landing and takeoff. And that is why the queue in the airports has come down in the winter season compared to the earlier times with the help of this satellite data.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you go back to the picture earlier?
This one? This one?
No, ma'am. No, sir. After this one. Yes, sir, this one.
Yeah.
The 3 geo satellites, GSAT 8, 10, and 15. That
Yeah.
photo you have shown.
Yeah.
Which kind of satellite is that?
That is geo means the geostationary satellite. That is around 36,000 kilometers above the Earth and rotating with the same speed and direction like the Earth. So Earth is rotating, satellite is also rotating, but relatively when you see, it is always above your head. That is called the geostationary satellite. It is not really stationary, but compared to the Earth, it is stationary.
Sir?
Yeah.
And I have also seen this picture in my book, in my school book. There's a picture of this.
Yeah.
Okay. And those plug-like things, what are those? Plug.
Where?
Sir, below the wings, below the right wing, there's a plug sort of thing.
Here in my slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, below which image?
The 3 geo satellites, these are
there. That may be a transmitter and receiver, because that may be a transmitter and receiver which receives the data from the Earth and uploads and downloads to the ground. Suppose you are seeing a TV program today, TV studio program. How are you seeing? The TV program is done in one room in a TV studio. That is recorded and uplinked to the satellite, and from the satellite it is throwing like a battery light, torch light. So then you are receiving the data across India or across the countries wherever you are beaming and streaming the data. So the satellite has got, like our human beings only, satellite is having a mind, that is a control system, and heart, that is either a camera in remote sensing satellites or this transmitter and receiver in the communication satellites, and the other wires and other power systems like our energy, food, what we take, and our legs and hands. And then these two sides you are seeing is the solar panels, which position towards the sun, get the reflection of the sunlight on that, and then get the energy and charge the batteries inside the satellite. And there are batteries inside, like our food is preserved after digestion in the body for some hours. The batteries are also having charged and keeping the power, because sometimes the sunlight may not be falling on the solar panels. So the internal battery works at that time, because the satellite cannot take a rest. It cannot go on strike. It doesn't have holidays or festivals. So 24/7 it has to work. So it's maintained, monitored, and health is taken care in all the 24/7, 365 days.
And sir, are there people inside those satellites?
Sorry?
Are there people inside those satellites?
No. That satellites are simple artificial satellites which are having the control system, power system, digital systems, transmission, receiving, etc. The people, satellites with people are called the human space flights. That's where I'm working now. That is the GAGAN from India. And there are other things which you know, many things from Elon Musk's SpaceX and the NASA or the Russia. They have sent the people. So there, instead of the satellite, the payload is passengers. So the passengers will sit at the top of the rocket, and they are the passengers carried from Earth to ISS or to the other destination.
Sir, excuse me, small doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, nowadays enemies are mostly like
Come again.
Like మనం our satellite, sir.
చెప్పండి,
How
తెలుగు
to
అయితే
find-
తెలుగులో చెప్పండి. ఫీల్
ఓకే సార్, ఇప్పుడు యాక్చువల్ ఏమైతుందంటే ఉక్రెయిన్ కి రష్యాకి యుద్ధం జరుగుతుంది.
ఓకే.
ఎనిమిస్ ఎక్కడ ఉన్నారో తెలియదు. ఇప్పుడు మనకి కూడా ఒకవేళ యుద్ధం వస్తే మనకి ఎనిమిస్ తొందరగా కనుక్కోవడానికి శాటిలైట్స్ ని కొంచెం ఇంకా అప్డేట్ చేయొచ్చు కదా.
Yes, it is a continuous process. Your question, for the benefit of others, I will translate into English. In case of a war, the satellites can be improved and then they can be used for the better detection of people and enemies. Yes, it is always possible. That is why the satellites are of two types. One is the civilian satellites, like what I am telling, remote sensing, cameras, transmitters, receivers, and navigation. But the other ones are called spy satellites or the reconnaissance satellites. They are used in times of war. They are at a lower height. They give a better imaging, but they are for a shorter period because they are in the lower altitude. They are their lifetime is short, so they are like a use and throw pens. So you can, these satellites are a long life satellites. Those are short life but highly powerful and interesting and important satellites. So you can have the more and more capabilities and more satellites. That is how the satellites are useful to stop the wars also. Why? We are watching the Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and China through our satellites. They are also watching our capabilities and our developments. And similarly, China is watching all other countries. So what happens with this? You will not just like that jump into a war, because you know the capability of the other side and his preparedness. Okay. And there is no end for this. Like exactly, I go back to the mobile phone. There is no end for this. We have got earlier satellites with 140 meter resolution, 70 meter, 36 meters, then 10 meters, 5 meters, 1 meter. Today we have got the capability up to 30 centimeters. What is the meaning of 30 centimeter resolution? If you keep two objects of 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter on the road and you take a picture, you can see them as two objects, right? So there is no end for that. Once this 30 is there, people will ask for 10 centimeter data. Once the 10 centimeter or 5 centimeter comes, then only you can really capture the people. Because when you are seeing from the top, what is our head size? It is very small, right? To capture that as different people and count them as different objects, we need higher and better resolution satellites. So every country is either developing their improved satellites or they are buying the improved satellite data from other countries.
Everyone, sorry to interrupt, but can we save the questions till the presentation is over, so that the doctor can finish his presentation, and in the last we will have a question and answer session.
What I will do is I will speed up my presentation so that we can have more interactive questions.
Sure, sir, of course. So everyone, please park your questions for later.
So these are the Earth observation program. In the Earth observation, the word is simple. You are observing the Earth from the satellite, either from the passive satellites, like what I said, they are imaging based on the sunlight, or the microwave imaging where the satellite itself is sending the images. So with the microwave image, what happens? The advantage is you can penetrate the signal through the clouds. So if it is a sun dependent imaging, you cannot see. Once the cloud is there, satellite is above the cloud and the cloud is falling, cloud's shadow is falling on the ground. So that day is washed out. But in microwave imaging, we can send the signal through the clouds and we can do the imaging in the night time also. That is how in the flood period, because most of the flood periods, most of the areas are clouded. That is where the microwave imaging will be more useful. And cartography and large scale mapping. So that is when you want to count the number of houses in a municipality, and when you want to do the municipal tax or property tax based on the satellite image, you need a best resolution satellite to count different number of houses and their size. Are you getting? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these satellites are used in the current government's programs like Amrut cities for urban master plans, and then infrastructure development, rail and road developments or route alignment, and pipelines. When the pipeline has to be laid from one oil producing or a gas producing place to different cities or towns in the country, you have to see the best route and shortest route and safest route. For all that, this bird in the sky or an eye in the sky is the satellite which is looking and helping the people. Definitely, we can also see in the next slide later 3D city models and disaster ke liye the DEMS, that is digital elevation models. They can all be developed. Next one is the environmental monitoring and atmospheric research. So as we are working on the Earth observation through cameras, there is also so many parameters happening in the weather and climatic conditions. So we have got some satellites meant for observing those parameters, that is what are the gases, what is their concentration in the air and whether over a particular area or a particular period, etc. And there are some other satellites useful for land and water resources management. When you want to see the land and water resources management, you don't need a high resolution satellite like you want to count the number of cars or count the number of the houses. Here you want to see how much land, how many acres, or how many hundreds of acres is green land, how much is barren land, how much is the water reservoir or water resource, and how much is a hilly region, etc. So here you need a higher width of the image but a lesser resolution, that is lesser clarity, because you don't have to count the number of trees there. You can say that in the Bangalore city in the last 10 years, okay, there is a 20% increase in the greenery, or in this eastern Bangalore, there is a 20% decrease in the greenery. More and more cities and apartments are coming. In the southern side, there is a 10% decrease, like that. So there we need a higher area to see bigger width of the earth with a lower resolution. Now, here comes for the one of the previous persons asked for the war period. This is the image for the remote sensing applications where the city, 1 minute, yeah, where the security and intelligence is obtained and monitored through the satellites. Initially, what we used to listen in the stories and something, some pigeons are there. They used to carry the letters, or they used to carry some small cameras fixed to them, and they were flying and that data was captured. After that, we got some imagery which was able to detect an aeroplane and an airport. Just it used to say, you can see the boxes, you are not getting a clear picture, what type of aeroplane, etc. You can only see and count the number of aeroplanes. But in the next image, you can see the aeroplanes in a much better clarity. But the last image, you can see the type of the aeroplane, its length and size, etc. So all these the aeroplanes and everything is standard manufactured. So you can count what type of satellite what type of aeroplane it is, and how many number of A380s are there, how many number of Boeing 777 is there. Like that you can count. So what is happening yesteryears, what was I told in the previous slide, spy satellites. Now the spy satellites are not really spy satellites, because many of the satellites are having the capability equal to the spy satellites. So overall, the countries are monitoring each other through different satellites, and they are planning for attack as well as for defense. That is for both offense and defense. Now, the satellite data application in disaster management. In the disasters, we know there are different types like floods, earthquake, cyclone, tsunami, landslide. So all these things, before the disaster, during the disaster, and after the disaster, we need the satellite data, and that is useful to tell how this area is. Suppose the flooding is coming. Before the flooding, how that is there, and what are the low-lying areas, which are the areas where people have to be evacuated. And if you are evacuating people, then where you have to move them, what are the high level areas, schools, community halls, or marriage halls, or some bigger function halls where you can keep the people. So all these decisions have to be taken by the government. This is what I said. All these things are not visible to common people who are using the satellite data or the mobile data for limited applications or the driving directions. But this flood management, cyclone management, and other things, they are the responsibilities of the government. And forest fires, as I mentioned, they happen on their own by the rupture between the trees which are very close to each other in the forest. So the forest fires have to be detected, and concerned authorities have to be told about the presence of the forest fires. And this is a beautiful slide on the 3D modeling. Like I said previously, this satellite data is captured. After that, over the computer, using the advanced algorithms, the 3D model of the city is captured. And here you know the height of the each building, height of the road, and what is the water level. So if the floods are happening today, by tomorrow, if it is expected to increase by 1 feet, how do you know that 1 feet? What is the water catchment area? What is the inflow? What is the current height? What is tomorrow's expected height? So it will increase by 1 feet. That means if the water enters the city, what are all the areas or low-lying areas which are first likely to be inundated or drowned in the water? So you have to target those people and those buildings to be evacuated first. Then if it is continuing by tomorrow evening also, another 1 feet comes, then how do you have to handle that situation? In all those scenarios, this 3D modeling is useful. Again, here this is more useful for the government departments, municipalities, and other administrators, because they have to monitor and they have to see where they have to send the vans, where they have to send a fire engine, or where they have to send the hospital teams, or where they have to have the rescue teams, etc., etc. So for the planning of the emergency response, because we will also see in many times in the TV, no sir, no government officer came, nobody came, our area is totally flooded, our colony is flooded, water has entered the houses, etc. Why? Because one is lack of satellite data on that day. But if the satellite data is there also, people have to analyze, take an alert, take a response, and alert the people and evacuate them to a safer region. So many elements are involved. And natural disasters, when they happen, because some are man-made disasters, some are natural disasters, like the floods, earthquake, landslide, etc. are natural disasters. Man-made disasters are done by us, like a bombing or a big disaster or a big collision by rails or collision of buses or anything. In that cases, you have to see again where the accident has happened, where the people have to be moved, what are the nearest hospitals, how do we take care of the people movement to those hospitals. This is another interesting topic to me personally. I'm the secretary at the national level for the Telemedicine Society of India. Afternoon only we had a training session. So this is a telemedicine, satellite-based telemedicine started in the year 2001 by ISRO. Today we are having internet in everybody's pocket through mobile phones. So that is not great. But in 2001, when we have connected a district headquarters with a state capital through a satellite, that was a great news and a great breakthrough. So that is how we started in the year 2001, where the village doctor or a remote doctor and patient are connected to a specialist doctor through satellite. Today, there are multiple options. You may connect through satellite, you may connect through internet, or you may connect through ISDN and other things. But when everything fails, satellite is more dependable because it is above the disasters, and it is in the higher platform or a higher orbit of 600 or 800 kilometers or 36,000 kilometers as the case of the satellite. So the satellite data will be useful to transmit the data from the doctor's end to patient end and patient end to doctor end. In case of the tsunami in 2005, Andaman Nicobar and other areas, they lost all the other terrestrial communication because all the poles and everything was uprooted. Finally, the satellite data alone was useful. They have used it for the governance, for knowing the number of deaths, for shifting the patients, or for shifting the people, and for the telemedicine. So this is how the ISRO's telemedicine program is started, and afterwards many people have joined. And initially it was point to point, means one hospital to one hospital, afterwards one hospital to many hospitals, and later many hospitals to many hospitals. That means any hospital to anybody. And today this ISRO satellite network is not the only connectivity. There are other modes of communication available. So what is the use of this for healthcare means? You see here the global map with the different colors of the dots. So today the virus, COVID virus has become famous. But you see here there are so many different hundreds of viruses. You see 617 vector-borne alerts. And there are 114 respiratory alerts which cause the breathing problem, and 219 animal alerts. So these are all the alerts which are created by monitoring the conditions. Vector-borne diseases means, suppose you are leaving a waterlogging area, or you are dumping the junk or your garbage into a waterlogging, then more and more mosquitoes will come. Then based on the wind condition, the mosquitoes will travel in the direction. So you have to find out what are all the areas which are more covered by the waterlogging or dusty areas or junk areas, and what is the wind direction, what is the temperature, and what are the probable diseases these can cause. So you see, except the coronavirus, we don't know, but here you are seeing hundreds of viruses. So these different colors of the dots will indicate different colors of the viruses available or spread in those areas. So again, this is an information for the government. Then comes the space science and planetary missions, which I mentioned earlier. Chandrayaan-1 was the mission to moon, that is an unmanned mission. And last year we had a partially successful, or 2 years back, we had a partially successful Chandrayaan-2, where the satellite, that is orbiter, is revolving around the moon and taking the photographs. But we failed in launching the lander onto the moon. But that will be hopefully successfully attempted in the next year in the Chandrayaan-3. We have got similarly AstroSat, that is studying the astronomy. What are all the stars? This is pure science. And what are all the stars, and what is the galaxy, what is the Milky Way, what is the strength of different satellites and different stars, and how much is their illumination, what is the pattern. All these things are studied through the AstroSat. Then future we are going to get similar scientific missions like Aditya. Aditya is a sun-bound satellite, means it will not go into the sun, but very, very far off from the sun, it will, sorry, 1 minute. It will study the parameters and characteristics of the sun from a very far off distance. Okay, these are all the different satellites in building, that is GSAT 17, 11, etc. So bigger satellites and bigger capabilities are coming. Okay, these are another series of satellites, and these are the recent missions which we have seen discussed. And this is internal to the inside our office, how the satellite assembly, integration, and development happens. Here in the first image, you are seeing all the components being tested, and afterwards they are being put to a PCB mounting and the PCB level testing. Then you are seeing the shaker, which will be shaking the system or the satellite, like whatever is the shaking caused by the PSLV or GSLV. Again, like when you are traveling on the same road by an auto, or by a Hyundai Creta, or by a van, or by a lorry, your vibrations are different, right? Similarly, the satellite will undergo different vibrations when it is launched by PSLV, GSLV, or a Russian rocket or an American rocket. So those parameters are captured, and that level of vibration is given in these machines, and then they are assembled and tested. And the last images are the structure assembly and then propulsion integration system. In the satellite, there are some small tanks where the propellants are there. And this is a disassembled mode of the satellite where all the packages, you can see the components, wires, and different systems. This is the spacecraft panel, how it is being closed. Middle one is the thermovac chamber, where the thermal and vacuum conditions of the space are created inside the chamber, and the satellite is put inside that chamber, and it is tested for 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, or 30 days based on the age and heritage. If that is a old satellite type, which we already know, we will keep it for lesser testing. New satellite, we have to test it more. And then how the solar panels are deployed. Once the satellite is going, you can see that the middle image, bottom middle image, everything is like a baby in the mother's womb. Everything is like this. Once the satellite is launched, it has to open up the arms. That is the solar panels. And in that solar panel opening, suppose if you are opening up like a rash driving, whole satellite will shake. That should not happen. It should open up the panels one by one, and then the whole setup has to open up from the satellite. Similarly, it has to orient to the Earth when it is beaming the images or taking the images. Or sometimes it has to look upwards to look at the satellite stars. So like that, different tests are done within the satellite center. And this may not be much use to you. This is how the money is spent in the overall satellite system. Suppose if it is a 100 rupees or a 100 crore project, 44% goes into the ground segment, that is for receiving and other things, and 56% goes into the satellite and the development and rocket building and launching together. Again, within that, again, only satellite is 28%, 6% is insurance, and the launch service is 22%. This is how different financial numbers are there. So the space budget, this was slightly old. This is around 10,000 crores at that time. Today we are around 13,000 crores budget. So that is allocated to different projects like remote sensing satellite, geosat, navigation, and center. Center means what? That is the facilities development, not for particular satellite, some testing facilities, etc. And then this satellite, again, IRS satellite or a geosat, they are made under different centers. So different centers will get a share of each cake. IRS satellite, okay, this much percentage to this center, like that, based on the satellites portion which is being made in that satellite. So what is important? You have to plan the budget. You have to get the budget from the government, and material also you have to plan and procure. It is like one of the Shivaji, so not Shivaji, no, I think Shivaji, one of the Rajnikant's movie, where he is given 100 crores and you have to spend within a month or so. Like that, even if you are giving 10,000 crores, you have to follow thousands of rules, and you have to get the correct material from the correct person in the correct time. So you need so much of planning, and what material is required today, what material is required next year or after 6 months. And some of the material delivery periods are 20 weeks and 15 months also. So you have to plan in advance what are the materials required, how much budget I am having today, how do I plan my procurement, and how, after getting the material, how do I store the material, because everything has got some shelf life. So it is not like just like that Shivaji movie of getting 10,000 crores, oh, I can happily spend. No, you cannot spend just like that. You have to spend in the right manner with thousands of government conditions and restrictions. So finally, we will come to towards the conclusion. ISRO's journey is, originally we had US developing and designing our satellites launched by Russia. Afterwards, we have designed our satellites launched by Russia. And in the third phase, we have our own satellites launched by our own launch vehicles. And finally, today we are having satellites designed for others, developed for others, or launching for international customers. We have launched more than 50 satellites for the international customers. And so this journey is continuous process. And after all these missions, today we are going towards the manned mission. This is how the 70, 80, 90 and 2000, how the industries are participating, how the industries increase is happening. So finally, what is the success factor? Why ISRO is regarded and respected so much in the government department? Generally, government departments mean somehow people have got very bad opinion. They come late, they go early, they don't spend money properly, they misuse the taxpayers' money like that. But with all that, how at least ISRO is able to manage is we are having a variety of issues and variety of the special features for that, because it is a high value, low volume and high risk missions. We don't develop satellites like Maruti cars or Creta cars in thousands, right? We develop only a few, 5, 10 or 15 over 2-3 years period. And they are having multiple disciplines like electrical people, electronics, mechanical, chemical, because the propellant tank and all need to be chemical engineers, have to decide. So all these people have to work together, but in their different cities and different departments, and many ground and on-orbit operations involved, because you have to test everything in ground and you have to prove. But again, you cannot, sometimes some of the things you cannot prove again, like matchsticks. If you take, you have a matchstick manufacturing. Okay, there are 100 matchsticks in the box. Okay, how many you can test? Even if you test 99, you have to depend on the 100th matchstick correctly glowing based on the performance of these 99 sticks. But the 100th stick, you cannot really burn it in advance, right? Similarly, some of the operations can be done on ground, some of the operations cannot be done on ground, and you have to do with a ground level testing. And workers to engineers ratio is very small, working level is small, very high level of number of engineers are working. So communication and technical transparency is essential, because within our office also so many buildings, so many departments are developing different subsystems, power systems, communication systems, digital systems, etc. So they have to communicate. And satellite, different parts are made in different cities, in different centers. So we have to communicate. And again, everything is to be finally integrated. When you say, no, I thought this is on the left side, oh, it is on the right side, I will go back, means there is no option. So we have to have a proper communication, interface and understanding. And these are all the single operations, like I said, non-testable, like the matchstick. So there are not many systems or people who are coming. Now we are opening up as per the recent policy for industries to come more. Earlier, they were supplying us components, helping us in development of systems, subsystems and testing. But we want them to take more bigger role and get into the space business, that is developing a satellite or a rocket. So finally, what are the things which are important for a structure? KSF means key success factors. Concepts matter. First, your conceptually should be thorough. So when you are studying, all the students also, you have to study not for your parents' sake, marks' sake, or your teacher's purpose, or for ranking. You have to understand the concept, how this works, why this works. When this light falls on this object, what is the reflection? All that concepts we have to understand. And execution. Okay, you understand everything, you know the concepts very well, but is it sufficient? No. Whatever concepts you have understood, you have to put on paper and execute them well. After that, again, what you have to execute, what satellite you have to make, what rocket you have to build, what material to use, all those things are dependent on the vision. So what is our goal in the next 5 years? What is in the next 10 years, 15 years? So that is the vision at the higher level or the leadership level. So all these things are important. So we need a technology, development, administration, and philosophy, planning, control. So many things are involved behind the rockets and satellites, which you are seeing. So how this ISRO is successful, as I told, this is the thing. So there is a trust, faith, and confidence in the people, and you have to get down and solve if you see any problem. And there is a mission mode of working, taking calculated risk, and people have to work in different teams, but as a together. And technical freedom and operational discipline. You can give any technical suggestion, even if you are a new entrant or a just joined engineer. and then you have to basically have a feeling of belonging. Yes, I belong to ISRO. This is my country, my taxpayers' money, my citizens, my parents and my family and my village or town. Everything is benefited by the ISRO services. That commitment has to be there, and technical honesty, etc. So these are the important things which make ISRO a different and a special public sector or a government department. So team spirit and teamwork. So we have to take care of the people and their interest and their things. So this is the final thing. What is the triology for roadmap? We have to see, just because somebody is going every week to International Space Station, can we go to that? Do we need it? Do we have that money? Do we have that capacity? We have to see what are all the international developments and technology trends on one side. And what is the technology available for us? Can we buy the technology or do we have to develop? And even if you have the money, technology and availability, do the nation, does India need it? We have to see that. So all these factors have to be considered. So you have to develop the spacecraft by looking at all these internal factors, and you have to look outside. That is the world where the components are made, how the working is happening outside, and how we have to work inside for a useful and successful projects and their execution. Thank you. This completes my presentation. Now you see here, these are all the dots are all the satellites in the Earth equatorial orbit, and these are all the orbits, satellites which are in the polar orbits. So like our Swachh Bharat mission today, very soon we have to take up a Swachh Antariksha program, and already some countries have started, and we have to clean up the space. Otherwise the accidents will happen in the space also, because more and more countries are coming, more and more satellites are being launched. Thank you. I have finished my presentation.
Sir,
Thank you so much, Dr. Murthy. And now we will start the question and answer sessions.
Yeah.
I suggest to all the participants, you can ask your questions now. I suggest you type it in the chat so that we can have it addressed properly. So please type your questions on the chat and we will have it addressed properly.
I think I took slightly more time, 1 hour, 10 minutes. Or
Yes, sir. But it is all right, since we had some questions in between the presentation also. So the time limit is fine. So everyone, the chat box is open for questions. You can type your questions on that.
what is pre-launch? That is before the launch. So before the launch, you have hundreds of tests to be done. That is called SOE, sequence of events. So every subsystem has to qualify itself. And then after that, every system has to qualify. That is like your car journey. If you are starting, you check your battery, you check your brakes, you check your car and clean the car and everything. So like that, before the launch, each subsystem, each communication system, cameras, lighting system, lightning protection, everything has to be tested before the launch. That is the pre-launch. Launch is the real launch, and post-launch, after the launch, how do you keep the satellite in the correct orbit, etc. So how Google Earth is working? Google Earth is working by taking imageries from different satellites. So many satellites data it is collecting, and it is collating all the information, and it is putting. Suppose one satellite has taken an image over Chennai today, it will get one more image next month, so it will update. So and some area may not be imaged till now, because very rural areas or where there is no interest or public interest, they may not be imaged. So they are imaged again and again, or imaged and added to the catalog of images. How the heat pipe is used in satellites, and what type of heat pipes are used. Heat pipes are basically used to dissipate the heat from the system, because some of the electronics and other things, if you know, if you switch on your TV also for 10 hours, it will get heated up, right? Similarly, some of the systems get heated up, so that heat is to be dissipated through a proper mechanism. You dissipate the heat from one subsystem and throw it on the next system, in that system will get damaged. So it is to be controlled. There are different types of heat pipes which it's not possible now to describe. Then what is the lifespan of a satellite? Lifespan of a satellite for a remote sensing, it will be something like 5 to 7 or 8 years. Sometimes it will go up to 10 years. As the repetition increases, as our experience increases, the life of the satellite increases, because we have got higher quality and standards. What is thermovac? Thermovac is thermal and vacuum conditions. When you are in the space at 600 kilometers, the temperatures and vacuum conditions are A. When you are at 800 kilometers, the temperature and vacuum is B. When you are at 36,000 kilometers height, the temperature and vacuum conditions are C. So these are all the things which have to be simulated in the thermovac chamber before putting the satellite into the orbit. So if it is a 600 kilometers orbit satellite, that will be tested for 600 kilometers conditions. When are we going to use IRNSS data for navigation from our mobile phones? Yeah, this development is happening. I understand recently they have started the chip development and integration for the mobile phones, but the Air Force, aeroplanes and other Navi systems, etc., they have already started using. From mobile phones, it may take slightly some time. How one space image of a location is compiled from different satellite systems. Compiled means what? Like I said, when you want an image over a Hyderabad or a Bangalore, you get one strip from one satellite, and you take the next strip, if it is not available from the satellite, from the nearest resolution. You will not put a 100-meter resolution and a 1-meter resolution. You will put a nearest resolution, nearest date, because the image captured today may be different from an image which is captured in a monsoon season or a winter season. So you will get images from similar satellites, from similar weather conditions and in this similar time period, so that the images can be stitched together side by side. What is that? From where can we download 30 centimeter accuracy data? You cannot download 30 centimeter accuracy data. You have to buy, because that is very precious and very, what do I say, very dangerous also to be misused. So it is not just like that given. Very high resolution data is given to users to see by testing whether they are government users or private users or companies working for government or private company for a private use. How much time will it take for us to inform to the concerned authorities about any forest fire happening currently? We have the image, we don't take time, because as soon as the satellite captures in the forestry department, there is a big map. Their images are updated like a blinking, like in the GIS map, where are the vans, like our Ola cab or what is the other one? Other cab booking companies, you see the satellite cars, they are available at this place. Similarly, that image in the forestry department will have a forest fire alert. After that, it is up to them to take the necessary steps and inform the local ground staff.
Before we wind up the question session, are there any other questions that the participants would like to ask before we wind up the session?
Okay. So if there are no questions, means they have understood very well or they have not understood. So in both the cases,
Sir,
yeah.
So I had a question. What are cartosats?
Cartosats are satellites which are used for cartographic purpose. That is like mapping. very high resolution data used for this city applications I told, like for municipal administration, counting the houses, seeing the streets, etc. That is cartography. Cartography is drawing or sketches in detail.
And sir, are humans sent to satellites for maintenance?
So, no, right now that is not there, because they are in different orbits, and then opening them in that space and all is not possible. But only thing is, some countries have tested the fueling, like aeroplane to aeroplane fueling. Very few countries have tested some small demonstrations of fueling, because there are fuels in the satellite which are useful for like a energy for the satellite. So what are the three things which are deciding the life of a satellite? The life of the electronics, the fuel, and the batteries. So batteries and all you cannot replace, but fuel sometimes can be refueled. But that is with the compared to the cost and the risk involved, that is not worthy. That's how many people don't get into that.
Sir, one more. What are resource satellites?
Resource satellite is monitoring the resources. What are the resources of the nature? What Mother Earth has given us, or God has given us? Your air, water, land, oceans, and the petrol or diesel or the petroleum products under the earth, etc. So where are the resources? Where are the waters? Where are the towns or cities with people? And where is a land? Where is a good land for agriculture? Where is a land which is not useful for agriculture? Where are the mountains? So these are all the resources of the nature from the mother nature. So we have to monitor and manage them and use them properly. All of you as citizens or students of India, or sorry, students today and citizens of India tomorrow, you have to see, when you are going out of your classroom, room or anything, you have to switch off the lights, you have to switch off the fans, you have to use less paper. Just because you have got money, you should not go by petrol vehicles to small distances. You should not misuse this nature, because these are all limited. Sunlight may be unlimited, but the petroleum products are limited, right? The water is limited, the earth is limited, the area where you can grow the crops is limited. So we have to use all these natural resources. That is what they say. We have to have the resources to be managed. Non-renewable energy means what? Sunlight is a renewable energy. Every day you get, unless the sun takes a rest. But these petroleum products, water, earth, soil condition, etc., these are all non-renewable resources. You have to use them properly. Satellites used for that purpose are resources.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. We have a final question in the chat box from Narendra Kumar. So what is the software used for 3D modeling used in the presentation slide?
There are different softwares like ArcGIS from US, and there is a different satellite software for from ISRO and transferred to a company called ScanPoint Geomatics in Ahmedabad. So there are different satellites, imageries which are analyzed, captured, and used in this data building, and using developing either a map or a 3D satellite. There is no specific software. Multiple softwares are.
Okay, so that is the final of the questions that we have received. On that note, we are going to wind up this session. So I would like to deliver the closing note of the webinar. So I believe this webinar was informative for everyone. And on behalf of IFERP, I would like to thank all the delegates and students who have joined us today. I would also like to extend my gratitude on behalf of IFERP to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Murthy Remila, for delivering the keynote address. regarding your certificates, you can download it from our IFERP dashboard. The dashboard link along with the feedback link will be sent in the chat box by our team. And kindly give us 24 to 48 hours to upload the certificates into the dashboard, after which you can download it from the dashboard. In the meanwhile, as we are closing up, I would like to announce certain Scopus conferences that are currently going to be held in IFERP. So as you can see on the screen, these are the upcoming conferences that IFERP has organized. So on the 15th and 16th of July, there is the second international conference on innovative.
half an hour lo call chesta.
So on the 15th and 16th of July, we have the second international conference on innovative research in engineering and technology. On the 20th and 21st of July, we have the virtual third international conference on emerging trends in engineering and technology. The 13th and 14th of August, hybrid international conference on exploring colossal technological advances of 21st century in science, engineering and technology. 24th and 25th August, hybrid 41st World Conference on Applied Science, Engineering and Technology. On the 25th and 26th, the virtual second international conference on research trends in engineering and management. For more information on these conferences, please visit www.iferp.in for more information on these conferences, about how to participate and more details as well. You can always contact our team, who will be more than happy to help you out in this, as we believe that these conferences are a wonderful platform for the fellow researchers and scholars and academicians to present your work among your peers and colleagues. Please do look at these conferences, and you can find more information on participation and more information about these conferences. Okay, on that note, we are concluding this session. Once again, thank you to all the students, delegates, and professionals for joining us today. And thank you so much, Dr. Emila, for joining us on this session and providing a very, very informative session to all. So this is your host, Juveria, and we are signing off for the evening. So until we meet again, everyone, take care and stay safe.
Thank you, ma'am.